been implicated in the commission investigating alleged political interference in the criminal justice system. But his focus this afternoon is on the economy ahead of the local government elections next year. He's listed several interventions that the party plans to make.
The NEC resolved that an economic war room should be established in the presidency to coordinate cross-government performance, monitoring and publish regular scorecards on progress. Fundamental to the success of these efforts will be sound institutional governance.
In more news just in, the Supreme Court of Appeal has upheld President Cyril Ramaphosa's recognition of Zulu as King of the Zulu Nation. The president approached the court after the Pretoria High Court ruled that the process of his appointment was unlawful and invalid. King Zulu's recognition came months before he was traditionally crowned at the Royal Palace in Nongoma, which was challenged by the king's uncle Prince Mbonisi and his older brother Prince Smagade. Another investigating officer in the Phala matter has denied coercing a state witness to sign a prepared affidavit. The witness, who cannot be named, accused police of making him sign a statement he didn't understand because he's illiterate. The man is an old friend of the three accused burglars and is accused of transporting them several times after the robbery at President Cyril Ramaphosa's farm. A trial within a trial is taking place at the Modimolle Regional Court in Limpopo to determine whether his signed affidavit to police can be submitted as evidence. A Hawks detective who was present when the witness made the statement says they did not hand him any prepared notes.
That's not true, Your Worship. The statement, the reason we drove all the way to that place was for us to obtain the statement.
The witness claimed he was tortured by police with a plastic bag over his head and repeatedly threatened with arrest if he didn't tell them about the accused burglars, but the detective also denied this.
Kenochnal typed his statement on his laptop, and then after that we left. We did not take him anywhere. So I do not know of, as I've said, I do not know of his arrest. I do not know of people taking him, putting plastic on his head. I do not know any of those things, Your Worship.
In KwaZulu-Natal, the lawyer for accused number 3, Stanley Skhosana, in the murder trial of ANC politician Sindiso Magaqa, says he's not ready to proceed with trial yet. Advocate Christoph van Skalkwyk is now representing the former Umzimkhulu municipal manager in the high-profile murder case. Skhosana has joined his co-accused after he was denied bail in the Umzimkhulu Magistrates Court last month. The group faces a string of charges including murder and conspiracy to commit murder, among others. Has more.
The 3 remaining accused in the matter appeared together for the first time at the Pietermaritzburg High Court. Accused 1 is former police officer Sibusiso Ngengwa, accused 2 businessman Mbulelo Mpofana, and accused 3 former municipal manager Stanley Skhosana. However, when the proceedings got underway, Skhosana's lawyer, advocate Christoph van Skalkwyk, senior counsel, addressed the court.
Main reason, however, is that we can't and we could not, up until now, consult properly to make a defense, and we believe that it would not be in the interest of justice if we simply adjourn.
He says he needs more time to prepare himself.
But the accused cannot at this stage, we submit, have a fair trial because we are simply not in a position to proceed.
The state is not opposed to the request, as it also requests time to file its affidavits. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Pietermaritzburg.
And delegations from Hamas, Israel and the United States are due to convene for talks in Egypt. Both Hamas and Israel have responded positively to Trump's proposal for an end to the fighting and the release of captives in Gaza in exchange for Palestinians held in Israeli jails. President Donald Trump has urged negotiators to move fast to end the nearly 2-year war in Gaza. Gold is trading at $3,940.11 an ounce. The rand's at 17.26 to the dollar, 23.17 to the pound, and 20.13 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $65.70 a barrel.
Well, at this stage in Kelvin, expect about a 20-minute delay. This is on the N3 northbound between Marlborough Drive and the Butler Interchange. Also in Irene, there's still bumper-to-bumper traffic on the Mapius Drive approaching Main Road.
It's a fine day in Gauteng with scattered afternoon showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 29 and 30 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is unveiling the party's new economic action plan designed to stimulate economic growth over the next 18 months.
EWN, in touch. in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Relebogile Mabotja
Live, streaming countrywide
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
After 1 o'clock, welcome 7:02 afternoons with me, Relebogile Mabotja. It is a Monday, a brand new week. And the first Monday of the month, which doesn't just mean we need to relook this last quarter of the year. It also means we get to kick off the show with a book club. Today's book was read by Mandy Wiener, so you know it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to her feedback. Movies and what to stream. Phil Impela will join us, entertainment commentator for that feature, travel feature. Igor Mutilska chats to us, and we're going to be talking about avoiding travel scams during this holiday season. Everybody will be booking their holidays, and of course, we know where there's money to be spent, there are scams that are happening and money to be stolen. Second hour of the show, parenting and parents feature. We're going to be talking about access to early childhood development for every child. We'll be joined by Rebecca Hickman, Chief Ecosystem and Policy Officer at Smart Start. And then we wrap up with Dr. Chris Smith, the Naked Scientist. So get in touch with us, 011 883 0702, SMS us 31702, tweet at Relebogile M, at Radio 702 using the hashtag 702 afternoons, and the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702.
702 afternoons
with Relebogile Mabotja
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
It's book club time. We need to talk about what little jingle we want for our feature.
I thought you were going to say we need a glass of wine. It's book club.
That too. But doesn't it go well together? Do you actually drink wine while you're reading? What do you drink?
A little bit. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll have a glass of
something.
But I read for long periods of time.
That
so if,
you do.
If I keep drinking, I won't be able to concentrate very well.
Before we start, I've been waiting for our book club to officially congratulate you on your book, The Deal.
Thank you very much.
It does not qualify for our show. However, we will be telling people about it every chance we get. By we, I mean me. And I think it is so fantastic that in the midst of doing 10 million things that you do, you were able to meet your deadline and deliver your book. Are you proud of yourself?
There's something very satisfying about the end product of seeing a book. And this was a huge amount of work. And the one thing I do want to tell people, because we speak about fiction, right?
Yes.
This book, The Deal, reads kind of like fiction. It's a political thriller. And people always say, oh, do I need to follow politics to read this? And no, it actually just teaches you about politics. It's the stories. It's just a good rollicking thriller. Good stories.
So I have to then ask this important question. Is truth stranger than fiction?
100%. So I've always said this, that if I had to take the plot of South Africa and put it into a fiction book, nobody would believe me.
Because it all sounds like a lie.
Exactly. If you take the story of Kebble, if you take the story of Thabo Bester, I even wrote a column this week about Nathi Mthethwa.
Yes.
About how in fact, I was reading this book, our book of the week, Diplomatic Ties, last week when Nathi Mthethwa's news broke.
Yes.
And I was like, I felt like, and I wrote it in my column this week, that I felt like this was a chapter in Diplomatic Ties.
But
because there was so many kind of parallels. This is a book about diplomacy in Belgium. And it was like, this is so weird because the story of Nathi Mthethwa, the parallels for me were remarkable.
So I have to then ask this question. Do you ever feel like when you're writing a book which is non-fiction, that every day when things are evolving, you want to like add a new chapter and add a new chapter. Because I would imagine then I would never be able to finish a book because you're like, oh my gosh, I need to go add this there.
Well, that happened with my book, with The Deal. I was about to
Yes.
go to print, and I'd been trying to get the president, an interview with the president for a
Yes.
year. Every day I would send Vincent Magwenya a message, and I would just stalk him and just keep nagging him. And I was about to go to print, and he sent me a message at about 8 o'clock at night saying, get Sidi to stand in for you. You can see him at 11 o'clock tomorrow. That's the only time I can get. And I interviewed the president for about 80 minutes. I had to turn the interview around in 24 hours and get the book to print.
Well done.
It was pressure.
Yeah. And you did gift a copy to CD. I feel like there's so many conversations I need to have had with her from the time she passed to now, right?
Yeah,
About
absolutely.
politics.
I was just saying now, I need to think of a song for John Perlman's show later.
Yes.
And I was like, I could have asked Sidi.
Right.
Exactly.
All right. So our book for today is Diplomatic Ties by Mpho Boshego. What attracted you to this book?
So what attracted me to this book was the fact that Mpho Boshego served as a diplomat in Belgium. So she worked as a diplomat. And you know the saying when it comes to writing books is that they always say, write about what you know.
Yes.
So this has a real degree of authenticity about it. The cover is also fabulous. It's such a striking...
It looks
vivid-
Hollywood.
Yeah. So I like the tone of the cover and the fact that this is a diplomat who's writing this. And I got a lovely note from the publishers in the book saying diplomatic ties isn't about ambition or politics or power. It's about what it means to grow up needing to rescue yourself before your life even begins.
Ooh.
So I read that and I thought this was a book about diplomacy. What is this
does that
book
have to-
actually
yeah.
about? So that intrigued me. I thought, let me read it so that I understand the note.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so before we bring the author on Mpho, what is your measure? Because I know you once said to me that you used to never not read a book, even if you were over it
I've stopped
early
that.
on. How many pages do you give yourself? So when I watch a movie or a series, the rule is if we're not hooked within the first 5 minutes, that's the rule. Like if you do random selection and we say first 5 minutes, we're not feeling it, we move on. And then when you're alone, maybe you can give it a chance. But that's the rule is 5 minutes, you need to be hooked or else, because there's too many options. What is your rule?
I persist. I don't have a finite length of 50 pages, whatever it may be. I'm often reading 3 books at the same time. I'm reading one for my show, which is nonfiction. I'm reading one for your show. And then I'm reading one because I'm interested in it as well. So if I get distracted and I stop reading a book, it's because I'm not interested in it.
Oh,
if I don't
so
go back
that's
to
the
it.
sign.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I am so excited to hear about this book. And we have the author joining us, Mpho Boshego, author of Diplomatic Ties. Mpho, congratulations. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi, Relebogile. Hi, Mandy.
Hey.
It's so good to be here.
Mpho, I have
Thank
to
you
tell
so
you a
much.
secret. Ne?
Yes.
Now,
Tell me.
Mandy rarely does this with me. But she said to me, I've read the book. You need to read it. You need to read the book. Oh my gosh, it's such a, you need to read the book. That's what she kept saying. So my book is in the shelf.
Mandy.
It'll be one of my December reads.
Yay,
But I had to let you know.
Excited.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That means you really enjoyed it.
I did.
You know what I mean?
So before we get
Thank
into
you,
it,
Mandy.
Mpho, I think
Yes.
we need to actually tell people what the book is about because we've been talking about so many other things that we haven't actually got there. So I'll give a summary and then maybe you can give a little bit more depth. But Relebogile, I think the reason that this resonates so much is because it's a story about diplomacy, but really it's a story about a girl who grew up in Mamelodi. And she comes with baggage and this history of her family that she is trying to escape, but that she still supports throughout. And there is an illicit affair that takes place. She is a rising diplomat. She's ambitious. She gets sent to Brussels, and it's a story kind of about diplomacy. It's set against that backdrop, but what it really is a story about trying to escape your own history, and about needing to rescue yourself before you can really do anything else. So Mpo, I think as a starting point, maybe you can tell us.
Yeah.
I know that this is the question you get asked 1,000 times, because it's the obvious
Yes.
question about whether this is memoir, how much of yourself is in this book, because you too served as a diplomat in Belgium.
Yes, I did. This was around 2007 to 2011. But this is not my story. However, I did want to write a story that kind of like gives a sneak peek into the world of diplomacy. So I didn't want to particularly expose anything. I was just trying to capture the texture of that world, and what happens around there. But I think on some level, the story of Mbali is the story of all of us. We can see bits and pieces of ourselves in her. And at the core of this, I wanted to speak about what happens when survival becomes a personality. This is truly the heartbeat of the novel. That, Mbali is
Mpo,
brilliant.
you are so deep when survival becomes a personality. And I'm saying that's
yes.
deep because I'm sure there are people who are not even aware. It's the same as the people who are like victimhood becomes their personality. Doesn't matter how you try to help them, what solutions, that's just who they are.
Do you understand now why I want you to read the book?
Ma'am, I'm into anything to do with psychological and how the mind works. So already I'm like, yo.
Yeah, because, we see that Mbali's identity really is built on survival, basically on never letting the ball drop. So, how survival is supposed to be so much like stress. It's supposed to be temporary, just to make you alert. So you kind of like are aware of your environment and know how to move. And then you can calm down after that. But then what happens when that never stops? And it literally becomes who you are. And I think so through Diplomatic Ties and Mbali's story, I just wanted to explore that concept, like the cost of always trying to keep it together.
I think your author's note is so powerful when it comes to this. And I know it's at the end of the book, so I don't want to give too much away. But you say there was a girl once who had no softness to fall into. She carried the hunger of others on her back. And when the weight got too heavy, no one said, put it down. They just said, you're so strong. And you say, if nothing else, you want Mbali to be seen because there are so many Mbalis out there.
Yeah. So I think also that basically came from that. It came from, it is so easy to read Mbali's story and say that Mbali is reckless in her choices. But she is searching, she's searching for belonging, for validation, for meaning. And I think that's what I would like the readers to connect with her on. That, she mirrors the messy middle so many of us occupy. So I didn't want to talk about, if, the choices that she makes, are they good? Are they bad? I didn't want to talk about morality tales. I wanted to explore emotional truths. Like, why do we do the things that we do? And, many times people can sit in judgment of our choices, but really we don't know people's stories and what made them do
I found myself being a bit judgy of Mbali.
Yeah, tell me.
No, just because of her choices and how foolish she was and how she was compromising herself by choosing to do some of the things that she was doing. I was proud of her in some instances and frustrated with her in others.
Yeah. I think it's true. And I think also for me, in writing Mbali's story, I wanted to show her in her fullness. It's so easy to look at people when they are dressed and they look nice and they speak well and think that, they're perfect and there's no little crazy in their lives. But none of us I like that. We're very layered as people. And sometimes, depending on the story that you tell yourself about who you are, you find yourself making choices that I would not, like other people would not think they are correct. And I wanted to tell the story in that manner, that I did not want to make a judgment. For example, and I'm going to try not to spoil the story for people, but with this illicit affair that she gets herself into, she is with a gentleman that basically tells her how amazing she is and how brilliant she is and what a star she is and how far she's going to go. And for a young person, this particular instance, Mbali, who's like 24 years old, she's never heard this from a parent, for example. This gentleman happens to be 30 years her senior, and, she kind of like loves it up. She enjoys being seen. She enjoys someone saying, you're going to be really amazing and you're going to go far. So, and then she makes choices that many people would think, no, there was no need to do that. But like, the story that she tells herself and where she comes from, she at the end did not feel like she had a choice not to then do the things that he asked of her in the end.
I have to say, Mpho, the parts of me that are really fascinating, I absolutely love looking at a person and doing the opposite of Mandy, even though we're human, of judging them, but to try and understand what dictates certain behavior. And I'm going to give you a fun exercise, Mpho. There's a gentleman, and it might sound confusing, but he goes by the name of Bashar. He channels this, you know it. And the thing,
I love Bashar.
The thing he says all the time when a person is grappling with something is, what do you have to believe about yourself to be true for you to do X or to do Y? So my question then to you is, what does our leading lady believe about herself that she made those choices that Mandy would be able to say, girl? And Mandy said it in that voice, girl.
Like, why would you do that?
Yes.
Yes. So she believes that she's not enough. She believes that she's not lovable. She believes that she is not visible. She believes that when people look at her, they, especially from her family context, they're looking at her because they want something from her. She feels and carries the burden of so many people that she's basically gotten lost in people's expectations. So, she just thinks she's invisible, and she just thinks she needs to kind of like make other people happy and please other people, that her life is not as important as other people's, really. And it's a question of worthiness, and she just feels like she is just not worthy.
I'm really interested, Mpho, in how you write women in this book. The role of the gogo, the role of the mother who has a myriad of mental issues, and then the aunts. In a family from Mamelodi, this, I think many people would identify with this experience of the home and the uncle that's looking for the job. I really enjoyed the way you wrote women, the way you wrote the ambassador as an example. And a lot of these women are complex.
Yes. Yeah. So, the women are complex, but I think I also made them like that so that we can see Mbali go through the struggles, find her voice, and win at the end. Because I'm on Mbali's side from the very start. I thought she was a very complex character. And it's almost like I listened to her tell me how she wants to be portrayed. And I wanted to put characters in her midst as well that would push her, that will become a mirror for her, to a point where she almost kind of like stop looking outside and start looking into herself in terms of finding that voice of who she really is. But yeah, so like the ambassador, I mean, I'm not gonna make examples, but I've had heard of stories of like women bosses who behave just like the ambassador, people, and not just women, actually, men as well. People who it's all about themselves, they're in power, they're in authority, and they don't care about everybody else around them. And your job being around them is just to make them look good and do what you want them to do. And so there was the ambassador on the one side. And with the mother as well, I did not want a mother in this story who was almost like strong and opinionated and would tell her what to do. I wanted a mother who would almost kind of like in her, the issues that she has mentally, can almost like give her space for Mbali to find herself and find her own voice without her at the end thinking that it was a mother figure that turned her into the way that she is, even though actually she does in some way, because Mbali, not to spoil the story, Mbali loves her mother almost like as much as she resents her, because, she does feel that even in her not speaking, even in her illnesses, she's the one who is almost kind of like driving her to make especially the nasty choices that she makes in her life.
I have to ask, Mpo, I was going to say to you, it is so bizarre, the parallels. Yes. Before Mandy noticed another one. Now, I had a cousin who was working at the consulates. She wasn't the ambassador, but she worked there in Switzerland. And she grew up in Mabopane. How weird is that, right? So close to each other. And there are those dynamics of being the black woman in a very, very white country where they'd be targeted and all these things. But then Mandy also raised the parallels between the late Natim Tetwa in Paris. Do you have any thoughts or reflections on that?
Oh, well, first of all, I think what happened is quite sad, and my condolences. It's never a good thing when someone loses a life. But when the story came out, I did think, oh my gosh, it is true that, truth can be stranger than fiction, and like also after reading Mandy's article on Friday, it like reminded me of that as well, how the line between fiction and reality can be so paper thin. But I think for me, diplomatic ties and in relation to what has happened, it just shows how it's almost kind of like the weight that people have to carry. And it can also be like maybe like power, corruption on some level, how everything is so deeply emotional, that it corrodes like intimacy and trust and even, self-worth. And it's so difficult when you are, for example, a diplomat and you're outside and everybody just looks at you as, you're representing the country, but no one really sees you, because when you're a diplomat, it's not about you. You're not going to stand there and talk about the things that you like to talk about. You have, you are representing the country at all times. So everything that you speak about, how you present yourself, how you dress, all of that, it's very important. And I feel, and I felt as well on some level that, the person is never seen. So I cannot even imagine how, like diplomats, everything, the weight of carrying the country, how it weighs so heavily on them that it's almost like that person, what they think, how they feel, it's not seen anymore by people. And it's just so weird to think like what could have led him to do what he did, and what could have been happening, and how maybe he just did not have space, just to be himself and navigate everything.
Because investigations are still being done. What could have happened that led to, if there was foul play taking a place in that particular case? But Mpo, I'm so excited to delve deep into this book, and I'm so glad you wrote a character that's coming out of Pretoria, because
Yes.
you know ke ngwana ko ke Pitori girl wa bona our people. Which blog?
Yes.
Which blog?
GD.
I'm blog L. Girl.
Hey.
I'm so excited. Congratulations. I wish you all of the best, and I hope you're already starting to write your next book. Because once you start, I think the floodgates then get open. The book is called Diplomatic Ties, and it is written by Mpho Shego. Get your copy now. Time for latest Eyewitness News headlines. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, I'm Khomotso Modise. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa has unveiled the party's new economic action plan designed to stimulate economic growth over the next 18 months. Ramaphosa delivered the closing address of the National Executive Committee meeting in Boksburg this afternoon. The party is concerned about the struggling economy and the fact that some of its senior members have been implicated in the commission investigating alleged political interference in the criminal justice system. The Supreme Court of Appeal has overruled the Pretoria High Court judgment setting aside Zulu King Mrs. Zwelithini's recognition as monarch. In December 2023, Judge Norman Davis ruled in favor of Princes Mbonisi and Smagade Zulu, who opposed the king's official recognition by President Cyril Ramaphosa. In May this year, both the president and the monarch approached the Supreme Court of Appeal. And British author Julie Cooper has died at the age of 88. Cooper was known for her raunchy romance novels and her best-selling series of romantic novels known as the Rothshire Chronicles. In a statement, her publishing house confirmed that Cooper died yesterday after a fall. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News, more at 2 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at the stage, if you're leaving Alex heading towards Midrand, we still have slow-moving traffic. This is on the N3 northbound between Marlborough Drive and the Butler interchange. Also traveling through the Kempton Park CBD, traffic a bit sluggish on Pretoria Road between CR Swart and Plain Road. If you're traveling towards Bedford View, that's leaving Edenvale. There's slow-moving traffic. R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Kilulis interchange. And look out for those faulty traffic lights in Rand Park Ridge at Bayers Nodia and the N1, as well as in Alex at London and the N3. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
The charges that she's facing now, did that have anything to do, though, with the employment of this 22-year-old when this signature was allegedly used without the minister's approval?
I would not want to speculate, but rather let me focus on the unfair procedure which was meted out to Zanele Simons in this regard.
You're not able to say to us that when they say she used, allegedly, the electronic signature of the minister, what she had used that for, as per the charge sheet.
The charge does not really disclose that, except for saying that she used it to falsify CVs without proper authorization. And we want to state it before you that that is denied vehemently. That has not happened according to the instructions we have.
Paul Khoza is from the Paul Khoza attorney, represents Zanele Simon.
Clements Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
To celebrate 25 years of helping you live the Premier life, FNB Premier is giving you a chance to win a 14-day European tour experience and other cool monthly prizes. Open any FNB Premier account from September to 31 December 2025. Switch your salary, swipe or tap a minimum of 2,000 Rand per month for 3 months straight. Spend and win with FNB Premier. FNB, help changes everything. TCs and competition rules apply. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized financial services and credit provider.
My guy, tell me how date night was.
Bro, I'm telling you, my arrival was too clean. That sporty exterior, the 1.5 turbo engine, just turns heads.
But what about date night?
Yeah, it was chilled. But the Jolly on Pro, it's on another level, bro.
Sometimes, the drive is the best part. The Haval Jolion Pro from only 4,299 per month. Visit gwm.co.za for T's and C's. GWM. Go with more. Brought to you by GWM Finance, a division of West Bank, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
Got your attention? That's the power of advertising.
Prime Media is SA's leading media company, giving you unmatched reach across radio, audio, video, and digital. That's what you'll experience at the Prime Impact Sales event.
In Joburg, 3 to 7 November. Cape Town, 10 to 13 November. Register and receive a free demo commercial, a custom campaign, and access to exclusive partnerships.
Seats are filling fast. Register today at primeimpact.co.za.
702 Movies.
25 minutes to 2 o'clock, movies and what to stream time. And today we're joined by Phil Mpela, who is entertainment commentator as well as a television host. 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line 072-702-1702 with any of your what to watch recommendations. Can be old, can be new, and can be any genre. Phil, happy Monday. How are you?
I'm great, my queen. Wena.
I'm yo.
Listen, I know where this is going, so let's just get into
Listen.
it. Listen. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to let you do the talking.
Yeah, so we made a promise last week that this week we're going to start by talking about the little project that we're doing over the weekend. Well,
yes.
Which is the Married at First Sight reunion. Look, I'm going to be very honest. I was very reticent about the reunion. I was like, these people talk to the experts after on episode 13. Why do we need, a reunion? What are they going to be doing? Are they going to be forcing these relationships between these women? Because I didn't get that. I was like, these women don't need to be friends, right? I'm happy to say I was wrong. The reunion was needed, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And actually, I even found myself feeling the need to publicly apologize because
wonderful.
Mamela, I had posted on more than one occasion that Ulona Tepo had actually lied about the mother not wanting Palesa to come to Koti and all of that. And thanks to the reunion, it was very clear that Aushem, the guy was not lying. Look, there's a lot that you can say about the man. There's a lot about him that is very questionable and very problematic. But on this one, I am very sorry. I'm happy that the reunion happened because I got to see the real story. And yes, he was telling the truth. The mother did not want to be part of the Kotisa week. But outside of that, you did a great job. I love that you were able to give these couples an opportunity to speak their mind without feeling the need to play to the cameras. I think it was a very, very healthy conversation that helped the social experiment. And if anything, if I was ever to make an argument for reality TV show, I prefer reality TV shows like this, where a social experiment is not just done for entertainment, but it's also done for, the education of the public and for us to get, a sense of know what marriage. I feel like I can get married now. I feel like I know what marriage. I feel like
after this, it's not the one. So to say after this, I can get married. I have to.
Yeah, the thing is that, when you watch that show, I mean, especially with Portia and Bongani, there's something real about that couple, and the honesty is that it's not all roses, and even in the times that you can see people are hating, the both of them are hating, and sometimes they're being petty, but you can see that's real. I see myself in relationships, in situations that they are going through where you're like, I've been mean to the spirit of my ego. It's not allowing me to just, let my guard down. So yeah, it was very important. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I have to be honest. I was pleasantly surprised that the feedback around my style was positive, because I feel like as South Africans, maybe we're slowly outgrowing the need for drama every time. I think there's drama fatigue. And my concern was that it might not have been spicy enough. It was just like lemon and herb.
Yeah, no, you did a great job. And the way that when things got heated, the way you handled that was so amazing. I loved when you said that we need to be considerate and mindful. That was very powerful for me, because I feel like sometimes, the need for drama and the need for a moment, sometimes we tend to lose that humanity of just being mindful that there are certain things that we want to say but don't always have to say. But yeah, thank you for that. But speaking of that, by the way, we're going to turn the page right now. Showmax just announced that they've got a new show coming up, right? And the show is called Slay Queen. So just hearing the name, obviously people had issues. I just posted the trailer for that, and literally the moment I posted it, it sparked a conversation that's still going on right now on social media. And just to give you an understanding of the show is about these women who are quote-unquote slave queens. So basically, their entire existence is that they just chase the soft life by any means necessary, right? But this is a documentary. It's not a reality show. It's a documentary. So you've got other people that are on the show that are contributors and are contributing to, expanding the conversation beyond just, watching these ladies talk about, their life. So now I wanted to pose a question to you and your listeners, because in as much as I'm always very emphatic on saying, Jorge, you are not the target market for everything. Not every television show, not every content is made for you, so you don't always have to complain, But you cannot feign ignorance when people are saying that there is an element of the degeneration of black culture with black entertainment, especially on television. So now my question to you and the listeners is this. Okay, if we are saying that we have a problem with how black content on television now is getting to the lane that is very, debaucherous and not really helping the community in any way, right? If that's the way we are, who is to blame? Is it the broadcaster? Is it the commissioning editors? Is it the audience? Because remember, the broadcaster will tell you, we're giving the people what they want. So if you're consuming this content, are you not only contributing to that? So are you also to blame? Or is it just the culture in general? And I bring in the culture in a sense that, when we were growing up, at funerals and all of that, right? Even as a 20-something-year-old, you would not be drinking, holding a beer in front of your uncles or the elders. But these days, I'm sure you've seen this. These days, it's just okay. Like the culture has changed to that point that level of the tongue,
Can I tell you who's responsible? We as the people are, because the broadcasters will always invest in what people are watching. So if people stop watching something or don't give it as much attention, it slowly disappears. And the moment everybody's watching, then people will watch. At the end of the day, we are the ones that the advertisers want to sell to. So in that space of the attention competition, they will always go with where are the highest viewers are going to. That's my understanding. And I think for, as you said, like degeneracy and what are the things that maybe we're portraying in a way that is trying to entice people as it's something positive. People are going to want, I saw the promo and I already want to watch it. Like, I'm not even going to lie. And there's other wholesome things on TV that I'm watching. But like you say, there will always be a market for something. Now, Phil, we don't do this often, but I'm willing to give this young man who's been holding a chance, who wants to jump in. TT, go ahead. You've got a question or a comment. Good. Yes, Tobela.
I just want to say, look, with regards to production, and I'm not saying this gentleman is a saint, but I get his disappointment with production. So when
so you're referring to Tsepo from Married at First Sight. Okay, yes.
When his ex was called, they asked her one question.
Yes.
Right? All she was supposed to say is, yes, Kamutsebo, we are exes. And then let whether you or someone else ask a follow-up question. Mariano Otomagaur, yes, Ratsiban. What's about Khan? I didn't so.
How Titi? When I didn't know you. Titi, I didn't know you were starting to be a director. So you know what I'm gonna do, because I'm conflicted here. Let me let Phil respond. Phil,
no. I'm not trying to be a director. What I'm trying to say is, I understand his disappointment with production. I'm using that as an example. So I'm proud of him for not coming to the party, because now
okay, so
I feel to Married at First Sight.
Yes, look. So let me let Phil respond, because he's the one who studies TV shows as a whole. So Phil, maybe respond to the concept of exes or third parties being brought into reunions, because it's not a new thing.
Yeah. Look, I appreciate that, because one of the problems that one picks up with our reality shows is that, especially right now, maybe in the beginning it was not the case, but right now, you've got people who go onto reality shows thinking that they're going to control the narrative themselves. thinking that they literally are going to be producing and directing themselves within the show, because they can manipulate how things go and all of that. So sometimes bringing these third parties is actually for production to say, hey, you know what? You want to claim that you were edited in a certain way? Here are the people. Deal with the situation in the spot on the moment. So I'm not averse to third parties being introduced, because I think a lot of the time people go into these reality shows with an agenda and thinking that they can control how they are being seen. Where unfortunately when cameras are on you, you can blame anything, you can blame what about when cameras are on you all the time. No matter how much you want to act, no matter how much you want to control it, you're going to let your guard down at some point, and the real you will come through.
Okay, thank you for that, and thank you, Titi, for the call. I'm pretty sure that lots of people have a lot to say. We'll do it on another platform at another time regarding the reunion. Can we move on to the Thursday Murder Club?
All right, cool. Very quickly, yeah. So I've been on this thing right now where I'm loving the older generation in terms of films and series that are coming out.
Because they are icons. I mean, what an ensemble cast.
Love it. And Pela, if you listen to this segment, you know that I love whodunit, murder mysteries is my thing. So there's this new film on Netflix called The Thursday Murders Club. So this film stars Helen Mirren, Ben Kingsley, and Pierce Brosnan. These are icons. Helen is an icon of icons. But here's the thing: when did Pierce Brosnan grow? Like, clearly, a grandpa right now. So yeah, that's that. So the film is about these four friends who are living in a retirement home who solve murders for fun. But all of a sudden, there's an active murder case that they have to get involved with. It's a very, very, very nice comedy, comedy mixed with drama. It's a beautiful show. You're gonna love it. Go watch it. It's available right now on Netflix. Now, second to that, the last recommendation for me today is going to be about a film that is starring a woman that is now, I'm loving her so much. I didn't even know who she was until maybe 5 years ago. Her name is June Squibb. So she's 95 years old, and she is still acting. She's been in the industry for more than 60 or 70 years, and she's still acting. And at 95, she's starring in this comedy called Selma, which is what in the industry we call it a one last job flick. So it's the main character has to do something maybe before they die or before whatever. So this is a comedy in a way, and it's about this 93-year-old grandma who gets scammed and then decides she's gonna go on a mission to reclaim her money. It also stars Richard Roundtree. For the older generation, they will remember him as the original Shaft back in the 70s. Unfortunately, he died 3 months before the film actually went out into the film circuit back in 2023. So it stars John Squibb and Richard Roundtree. Now you can also watch this on Showmax right now. It's available right now. So yeah, that's my recommendation for the day. But yeah, the question still stays. So yeah, who's to blame for the degeneracy in black entertainment content on television? I'd love to hear what people have to say, whether on social media or anywhere else.
Send a WhatsApp through on that one. But Phil, we did not even have a moment of silence for the queen that was Hyacinth Bouquet, who passed away.
Patricia Routledge. Oh my God.
Guys.
You know what? I love that woman. But I mean, she was in her 90s. So I mean,
Keeping Up Appearances was one of the best British comedy series. If you have not seen it, I'm sure you can catch up with it somewhere. But the lead actress who played the character of Hyacinth Bouquet, not Bucket, it was Bouquet.
Yeah, tell our black people that this is the show that was adapted for South African audiences as Mponeng, which starred Lillian Dube. Yeah, so the lead character, Mponeng, yeah, that was played by Lillian Dube. In the original, is played by Patricia Routledge. Man, rest in peace. Yo,
Where her soul rest in peace. There's so much going on Film Pillar. Find him on the socials, also under the name Hopolo Mpela.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
Olani Khumalo is stepping from the screen into politics. Olani, what are you offering the residents?
Residents need jobs, residents need services, residents need homes.
Olani, almost every municipality, certainly every metro, has exactly those needs.
Ekurhuleni is infested by criminals. Law and order is what Ekurhuleni is.
Action SA's mayoral candidate for Ekurhuleni, he got them on TV, Uzobatola from the mayor's office. Are you convinced?
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
You are not dreaming. You are repeating. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
Fellow taxpayers, make tax matters a number one priority by submitting your personal income tax return by the 20th of October 2025 deadline. Once your tax return is submitted, you'll receive a notice of assessment stipulating if there's any tax-assessed debt due to SARS or not. Should you owe, it's crucial to settle tax obligations on time to avoid any penalties or interest charges. SARS, at your service.
Running a business is tough. You need tools that just work. That's why more South African businesses are switching to Mac. At iStore, we make it easy with 4,000 rands in added value when you switch. That's 3 years extended warranty and remote tech support, leaving you to focus on everything else. Switch to Mac with iStore, your expert partner. T's and C's apply. Mac at iStore. Run smooth as business should.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Government is looking at a way that would allow unlisted companies, I suppose in a way, you would be buying your BEE status.
What this proposal seems to say is that, look, if you can simply just move away from trying to do this patchwork approach of trying to address every single other element and simply focus on a turnover levy that you would pass on to this fund, you'd immediately get to level 3.
Kai Satole is an independent analyst.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show, Stephen Curtis, is brought to you by ABSA. ABSA is a proud lead sponsor of B20 South Africa 2025. ABSA is an authorized FSP and a registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
702.
Travel.
8 minutes to 2 o'clock in our travel feature for today. We're joined in studio, in person. I have to say that 7 times because we rarely see each other, by Igor Mutilska, who is founder and editor of igorjourneys.com. Make sure you head over to her website where you're able to see all about her fantastic travels and the tips that she has to give you. Today we're talking about avoiding travel scams during this holiday season. Thank you for coming to studio.
It's so wonderful to see you. It always is. I love giving you a huge hug. I always prefer talking to you in real life than over the phone. So this is such an honor.
Can I tell you a secret?
Always.
Since the last time you gave me, where did you come back from?
I went to Malawi.
I still have the kwachas in my wallet, and I've already done 2 overseas trips since seeing you.
Amazing.
And I have another out of country trip at some point. So I'm keeping my lucky kwachas in my wallet.
So I want to let you know that I'm planning another trip to Malawi. Maybe perhaps we go together. Let's talk about that potentially, maybe.
We shall. All right, let's talk about how we're not getting scammed, because we know it's busy season, and I'm sure by now people already know what their leave days are looking like. Those who can afford, they do go in December, or they're just better planners than we are.
Yes.
But let's talk about some of the tips.
Yes, certainly. I think it's so important to talk about it because, you know, Black Friday is coming up, the holiday season is coming up, and people who haven't planned, for example, they might be looking for like lastminute.com deals. And that's the perfect opportunity for scanners who are on the prowl to prey on people who perhaps aren't as, well planned or organized and don't know what to look for. So that's exactly what we'll chat about today.
Okay, so where do we begin?
So I interviewed Hanili Dutoy. She's the COO of SATSA, and I thought that would be great for us to start there. It's a non-profit membership-based tourism association. It represents over 1,700 services and products across Southern Africa. And this includes tour operators, transfers, charters, airlines, hotels, activity providers, tourism attractions, and destination management companies or DMCs who handle all of your ground transport and so on.
Okay, and I mean, that's a good place to check if people are a part of some kind of body. What are some of the requirements for them to actually maintain membership?
Yeah, so what's great about SATSA is that all of their members are vetted from a legal, tax and VAT compliance perspective, as well as where they have whether they have the valid operating licenses. It's reviewed annually, and they also check financial stability through auditors' letters and annual financial statements, so you don't book with any fly-by-nights. They also have a look at insurance compliance, which is so important. And then members obviously have to adhere to like a code of conduct. But it's also important to take note of the fact that there are various kind of tourism organizations or associations. Some might be purely from a marketing perspective, and others like SATSA are actually industry abiding code of conduct, a sort of organization that makes sure that all the legal compliance is in check. So you can verify whether a business is registered on satsa.com/membership directory/corporate. But I've written a blog post and you can go and have a look. All the links are there because there's a lot of depth and detail to what we're going to be chatting about today.
Okay, so what are some of then the examples that were shared with you of your local travel scams that you need to look out for? Because they're the same recurring ones that happen every year, and then there's the new ones that crop up.
Absolutely. Fake listings is a huge one, especially on social media, because there's a low sort of barrier to entry for advertising. So you might have cloned accommodation pages or social media posts that are too good to miss. And very often there's that pressure to pay up front immediately and into a personal bank account sometimes. You might also find imposter operators, so fraudulent airport transfers and charters, and their ads on social media might use stock images and burner numbers. You might also get bait and switch itineraries where you have a seemingly very reputable company organizing an itinerary for you, but then when you actually go to pay and you look at the invoice and the company, it's a completely different company name. So taking those itineraries and not actually following through. And also one other thing I would say is WhatsApp-only businesses. Those that have no registered...
Don't call WhatsApp only.
Exactly, precisely. There are no traceable landlines or office addresses and so on. So one thing you can look out for is that vetted members will have the SATSA logo on their website, marketing, social media, on their travel itineraries, and so on.
Okay, so how then should we as travelers just verify some of these products and services?
So I must say it's a very time-consuming process, but if you're going to be paying 70,000 Rand or 100,000 Rand on a trip, you want to make sure that it's legit. So there's a number of other tourism organizations that I've listed in my blog. You can go and have a look at them there. But I think the most important thing is ask for clear dated copies of things like their CIP registration, that they're a registered business. Ask for public liability insurance certificates. You want to make sure that you follow the so-called money trail, that the bank account matches the owner. Call the landline, stalk them on Google Maps, have a look at their street view, whether it's a legitimate business. And also have a look at whether they might be flooded with 5-star reviews that sound very similar and generic, or that they could be written by AI and all have new reviewers. That's really important.
Hello, Peter. Good place to always check out, and even just do, like, people are quite good on TikTok with just chatting. So also search TikTok, search Facebook for reviews on places.
Definitely. TripAdvisor is a really good one. A Trustpilot is very common in the travel and tourism industry. So I think just do your due diligence. I think it's so important, and you can definitely save yourself some money and some headaches down the line.
Okay, and then in terms of the steps, I mean, you can go and verify by asking for certain things, and I'm assuming if they say no, that might be a red flag.
Definitely. And then some other red flags are if the price point is way below market value. If you're being promised a 5-star safari experience for what you would be paying for an Airbnb, or the pay today, or else we're going to give your seat away, or we're going to, sell it on to someone else, when they try to spark that urgency within you. Again, if they ask you to pay via cryptocurrency or to a personal bank account, if you want to visit their offices and they tell you that they're renovating or moving. So also have a look at privacy policies. always read the T's and C's. Look for broken links and like poor spelling and punctuation and inconsistent branding.
And as Wendy Nola often says in these scam things, because she's dealt with a lot of booking.com, hotel, Airbnb things, take pictures, take evidence, document it. Go and report immediately. If you need to lay a charge, go to the police station to do so. And of course, always protect your personal information. Be careful about just uploading your ID numbers and your ID details as well. Iga Motilska, find her on eagerjourneys.com. It's 2:00.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Khomzo Modise. The Supreme Court of Appeal has overruled the Pretoria High Court judgment setting aside Zulu King Misuzulu Zwelithini's recognition as monarch. In December 2023, Judge Norman Davis ruled in favor of Princes Mbonisi and Smagade Zulu, who opposed the king's official recognition by President Cyril Ramaphosa. In May this year, both the president and the monarch approached the Supreme Court of Appeal. The SCA has now ruled in their favor. Nhlanhla Mabaso reports.
In March 2022, President Cyril Ramaphosa recognized King Misuzulu Zwelithini as Zulu monarch. Members of the Zulu royal family opposed to Misuzulu's ascension to the throne approached the court to oppose this move. The Pretoria High Court ruled in their favor, saying proper procedure was not followed in the recognition process. However, lawyers for both the king and the president appealed the ruling in Bloemfontein, arguing that all processes were followed and that the royal family actually identified the king and then the president only recognized him later. 3 months after the arguments, the Supreme Court has overturned the Pretoria High Court ruling. It also ordered the respondents to pay costs. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News.
The ANC has unveiled what it calls an economic action plan designed to stimulate economic growth over the next 18 months. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa presented the plan at the party's special National Executive Committee meeting in Boksburg. The plan focuses on strengthening the electricity grid, accelerating infrastructure development and building state capacity. Ramaphosa says the plan will be implemented through government structures with tangible results expected by 2027.
The NEC resolved that an economic war room should be established in the presidency to coordinate cross-government performance, monitoring and publish regular scorecards on progress. Fundamental to the success of these efforts will be sound institutional governance.
Today's proceedings in the Phala burglary trial have been cut short following complaints over the court interpreter. The accused have once again raised issue with the Oshivambwe interpreter, saying he's not interpreting the correct message. Emanuela David and siblings Froliana and Ndilinasho Joseph are charged with breaking and entering into President Cyril Ramaphosa's farm and stealing $580,000 in cash. The trial is being heard at the Mudimule Regional Court in Limpopo. Tabiso Koba is there.
Before the start of today's proceedings, the court interpreter told the magistrate he was tired due to having a busy weekend. He is tasked with interpreting the court's proceedings in Oshivambu, an official Namibian language. This is the home language of the three accused and also the state's witness who was on the stand today. Magistrate Peter Mantata says an alternative interpreter was not available for today.
I'm not sure if it's a question of being fatigued or actually it's a question of the language itself.
The matter has been adjourned to Wednesday, pending an inquiry into whether a new court interpreter is needed or not. Tabiso Koba, Eyewitness News, Limpopo.
The Vanabale Park Magistrates Court has heard that there is a backlog at lab testing stations, causing a delay in the DNA results of a 2-year-old murder victim. A mother, Gineilwe Shalaba, and a Sangoma Sibukwane Kwanyana are facing charges of premeditated murder and human trafficking for the toddler. The state says crucial evidence is not yet ready and the matter cannot proceed. Jabli Lambata has more.
The evidence outstanding in the matter includes forensic material and DNA results of 2-year-old Kutlwano Shalaba. His body was found in Begersdal, west of Gauteng in May, after Sangoma Sibukwane Kwanyana pointed out his shallow grave. The pair appeared in court today, standing alongside each other in silence. The gallery was full of gender-based violence activists and Buibatong community members who say they will be following the matter to finality. State Prosecutor Moses Raditsela.
Matters on the roll today for further investigations.
Investigations are still not complete, Your Worship. State is requesting a further remand, Your Worship, for further investigations.
The court has postponed the matter to 13 January next year. Relebogile Mabotja, Eyewitness News.
And British author Jilly Cooper has died at the age of 88. Cooper was known for her raunchy romance novels and her best-selling series of romantic novels known as the Rothshire Chronicles. In a statement, her publishing house confirmed that Cooper died on Sunday after a fall. Gold is trading at $3,933.15 an ounce. The rand's at 17.24 to the dollar, 23.15 to the pound, and 20.13 to the euro. Brent crude oil's at $65.39 a barrel.
Well, at this stage, if you're leaving Edenvale heading into Bedfordview, there's still slow-moving traffic. R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Giluli's interchange, and in Parktown driving through, heading towards the Joburg CBD M1 South, traffic sluggish between Killarney Benz and the double-decker section.
It's a fine day in Gauteng with scattered afternoon showers and thundershowers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs of between 29 and 30 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: the Supreme Court of Appeal has overruled the Pretoria High Court judgment setting aside Zulu King Msizulu Zwelithini's recognition as monarch.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Relebogile Mabotja
Live, streaming countrywide
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Seven minutes after 2 o'clock, the second and final hour of 7:02 afternoons with me, Relebogile Mabotja. And thank you so much for your messages. One person here is saying that they just got into watching series, so many nice movies. This is from Karen, who says, I'm into adolescence for now. You're going to enjoy it and it's going to freak you out. Another person, Tebogo, said, last night's reunion, you were beautiful, you ate, you left no crumbs, job well done. Thank you so much, Tebogo, for that message. And I'm so looking forward to this hour coming up as we chat parenting and parents feature. We'll be discussing access to early childhood development for every child. Rebecca Hickman, Chief Ecosystem and Policy Officer at Smart Start, will join us for that. Then the Naked Scientist, Dr. Chris Smith, will join us for the Naked Scientist. 072 702 1702, and the WhatsApp line SMS line 31702 at Relebogile M at Radio 702 is where you can find us on the socials.
Parenting and Parents
on 702.
Parenting and Parents feature time at 8 minutes after 2 o'clock. We are chatting access to early childhood development for every child. And we're joined by Rebecca Hickman, Chief Ecosystem and Policy Officer at Smart Start. Rebecca, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Lebu. It's great to be with you.
Chat to us about why this conversation is important right now.
Great question. I think that as we look to how we build South Africa's future even stronger, we always have to start at the beginning. And the beginning is early childhood. And we often focus on what's happening in schools, even what's happening in universities. But unless we get the early years right, then the children just don't have the right foundations in place to thrive later on in life. And what we see in South Africa is that so many children don't have access to early childhood development opportunities from birth. And in those vital sort of preschool years, age 3 and 4, many of them don't have access to an early learning program, somewhere where they can go and have structured early learning and development opportunities that will really put in place the building blocks for them to hit the ground running when they start school.
And I think what you're touching on is so critical. Just maybe discuss that's the campaign Act for Early Years. I think if a person is not a parent or has not assisted or supported in raising a child, they might miss the importance of that 0 to 5 years, which obviously expands to all aspects of their lives. Like you said, quality just care and the foundation education. But let's chat Act for Early Years.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great point, because I think that's something we keep trying to say, and that the Act for Early Years campaign is trying to say, is that this isn't just something that is a concern of parents or of practitioners, people who work in the ECD sector, but it's a whole of society concern. Because we end up spending more money on our education system trying to make up for the lost ground in the early years. We see worse outcomes from our education system. We see young people struggling to enter the job market, and we see businesses struggling to find young people with the right skills. And all of that has started because we haven't got the early years right. So what the Act for Early Years campaign is saying, what Smart Start and many other organisations in South Africa is saying, is that if we want to actually achieve solid economic growth, the way to do that is to focus in the first place on the early years. And the other part of this that we emphasise is that while the early years are incredibly important for putting in place those vital foundations for children, early childhood development programs have wider benefits, and they're often described as a triple impact investment, because when parents have access to childcare, those parents can go out and work, and they can participate in the labour market, they can become economically active. And often in our lowest income communities in South Africa, parents just don't have access to affordable quality childcare that means that they can then go out and earn a living. And in addition, what we see and what Smart Start has achieved through its programs across the country is the incredible power of ECD programs to create direct employment for the people, mostly women, who are working in them, and for all the auxiliary workers that also support ECD programs, such as cooks and cleaners and administrative staff. And often they become the only forms of economic activity in the poorest communities, stimulating other parts of the social economy in those communities. So there are all sorts of ways in which investing in ECD programs have these ripple effects for our economy and for society. What the Act for Early Years campaign is saying is that governments, business, donors need to commit substantially more funding that reflects the potential impact of investments in the early years, and that they're also pushing for an international financing summit on the early years to try to bring together governments to build that alignment and consensus around this as an apex investment for all countries.
Are you able to share any statistics to really paint a picture for us as to how dire the situation is? Because obviously, if you're living in Sandton or in a suburb, you might be quite out of touch of the realities of many children.
Sure. I mean, our data isn't as reliable as we'd like it to be. The estimates of the number of children who don't have access to ECD programs aged between 0 to 5 in South Africa is around 3 to 4 million. Then the gap for 3 and 4-year-olds in particular is over 1 million children. And this is particularly crucial because countries around the world realize that ensuring children at that age have access to structured early learning is critical if they are going to succeed at school. So that gap of 1 million children is actually what the government is sharply focused on at the moment, trying to close that gap, trying to unlock a pipeline of new practitioners, new venues where programs can run so that every child, no matter what community they live in, has access to those early learning opportunities.
Then when we look at this policy shift and what is happening, and maybe chat to us around the international collaboration, particularly, what happened at the G20 summit in South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, that was really cool because what South Africa decided to do was to lead the way on this and to really try to shift the terms of the conversation. And huge credit to the Department of Basic Education for providing the political leadership on this. And for the first time ever, a whole day at the G20 when what's called the Education Technical Working Group, there are all these different technical working groups that get together with the delegations from all the G20 countries. And when the Education Technical Working Group met in May, they gave a whole day to early childhood development. And that was unprecedented. And it was really something to be there and to listen to country delegation after country delegation talking through what they're trying to do in this space, how they're trying to improve equity and close the access gap. And I think one of the reasons why South Africa chose to take the lead in this space is not because we're saying we've got everything right, that this is, problem solved, because it isn't at all, as the data I've just shared shows, but because what South Africa has done is given real focused political and policy attention to this. It's trying to reform the legislative framework for early childhood development. It's published last year a new strategy, the 2030 strategy for ECD programs, setting out its ambitions and its strategy for closing the access gap. Earlier this year, it gave a massive funding boost to early childhood development, which you might have seen in the budget, this 10 billion rand funding boost. And also at the same time, and I think this is a critical area where South Africa has been leading the world, is that it's paying really close attention to what are the delivery systems that help us to close the access gap, because it's not just about having the right policy and funding systems. Unless we know how we can set up and run programs in our lowest income communities, our most vulnerable children will still be denied access. And so what the government has done is has said it needs a social compact in place. It needs to work with organisations like Smart Start that is putting in place these at-scale national delivery systems so that there's a partnership between the state and the non-state sector to build delivery solutions that work in every type of community.
Can you share with us some of the reasons that there is this attendance gap? Because I don't think it's as simple as just the difference between the wealthy and the not wealthy.
No, you're spot on. It's not. And I mean, we see there being two elements to this. It's kind of like the demand side and the supply side. From parents' point of view, not all parents fully understand or being given the information to understand the importance of the early years. And that's not just a South African issue. You'll see that in every country around the world, where parents often think that learning starts at school. And so there isn't necessarily a push for access to the programs that would then help, if you like, to create a market for those programs in their communities. So on the one hand, there's the need to strengthen parental and community understanding around the critical role that these types of programs can play. On the other hand, there is the question of the viability of these programs in the lowest income communities when they can't really charge fees. Where programs can charge fees, then they can run as really effective micro social enterprises, and even when they only have a handful of children attending. But in the lowest income communities, it's hard for them to be economically viable. And they also have another set of challenges, and that is the regulatory barriers that are in place. There's a whole set of laws and requirements that ECD programs must comply with. Some of those are at municipal level, some of those are through a national registration system, and a lot of them are very contextually inappropriate. They really don't, they're not properly respectful of the very diverse communities we have in South Africa, and they assume a level of formality that isn't actually our lived reality. And so one of the things the government has been doing, which I mentioned in its legislative work, is looking at urgently reforming that regulatory framework so that actually it's far more enabling and far more inclusive for ECD programs that need to set up in low-income communities.
What is the solution to address the lack of the formal ECD centers and assistances that come from that side?
I think part of the solution there is and it's something that Smart Start has been trying to do, is to challenge the assumption that a formal ECD centre, by which I'm meaning some sort of purpose-built structure with separate classrooms, which is what people often assume an ECD centre to be, is the only place where quality early learning can happen. Because what we see is that actually quality early learning and development can happen in home and community-based programs. That isn't a second-tier type of intervention. It's a first-tier type. And again, that's not only true of South Africa and the global South. It's countries across the global North as well, where their home and community-based programs are a critical part of ensuring that every child has access. And the main thing is how we support quality wherever the program is, rather than assuming that it has to be in a certain type of infrastructure. And of course, that also speeds up access, because when we're thinking, gosh, we've got to build a whole load more centres, that will take years and years and years. Whereas when we say, let's look at the assets that already exist in communities, let's train the amazing women in those communities to run programs, let's enable them to use the venues that already exist, then we can unlock access much quicker.
I want to chat a little bit about the contribution of poor infrastructure to all of the important work that needs to be done in that ECD development stage. Can you chat to us about what the current situation is like in a country like ours as South Africa, but also the impact that it has on the important development that the children would need?
Yes, I mean, as I say, the infrastructure itself shouldn't prevent children from having quality early learning and development opportunities. What is crucial is that the infrastructure is safe and that children are in a healthy and safe environment. And often the quality of infrastructure in our poorest communities is such that is more challenging. But that is something that can be supported. And there are many NGOs and organisations across the country that are successfully working alongside programmes that are running in under-resourced facilities to help them improve both the fixed infrastructure, but also the movable infrastructure and things like sanitation and learning and play materials. So we try to look at what exists and work out how we can strengthen it to see the resources that there already are in communities and build from those.
And then, I'm just also thinking about the ripple effect of children now getting sick and having to stay home, or getting sick and then the parents not being available to take care of them, that the children end up having to go to the creche or the ECD center anyways. Rebecca? Ooh, I think I may have lost our guest. I'm not sure what happened there. But if you'd like to get a little bit more information on this really, really important issue and the work that is being done, which is to ensure access to early childhood development for every single child, is to head over to smartstart.org.za. There are a few options of how you're able to get involved, be it as a franchisee, a caregiver, a funder, or even as a partner. They can do with all the help and the support that they need. Rebecca, do we have you back?
I'm so sorry, Lebo. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I do apologize.
No problem. I was just saying that the ripple effect of things like not having running water inside a premise can also just inside the premises is that it can also have that effect of now kids are getting sick, where either now they're being made to still go to creche or now they have to stay home and miss out on the learning.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think that organisations like Smart Start and its implementing partners, they attach a lot of importance to training practitioners around the kinds of practices that are going to create healthy environments for young children, and that includes how you can create a tippy tap, for instance, for them to do safe hand washing, always making sure that they've got clean water on site. And what we do across the Smart Start network and many other programs do as well is we have a special sort of checklist that our coaches use to make sure that these kinds of minimum safety standards are in place. And it's amazing what innovations can be done in even the lowest resource context to create safe and healthy environments for small children.
I'm curious about the stats around the unqualified practitioners, where we look at no formal education. This is the 2021 ECD census, that 22% of ECD center staff have no teaching qualifications and 26% have only attended a skills training program. How concerning should these figures be? Because if I imagine an ECD center, there's information that's life and death, and then there's information that isn't life and death. How concerned do we need to be with that statistic?
Yes, I mean, we would absolutely agree that every practitioner should have access to basic training. I mean, as you say, to ensure that they understand the basics of how to create a safe and conducive environment for young children, but also so that they really understand some of the principles of early childhood development, how to stimulate, what play-based learning looks like. I think sometimes that kind of training gets conflated with qualifications. It's great if practitioners can go on a skills development and continuing professional development journey and work towards qualifications. But those kind of high level qualifications shouldn't necessarily be the threshold for entry into the profession. And two pieces of interesting recent data. Firstly, the Smart Start's child outcomes evaluation, which happened last year. The majority of practitioners in Smart Start are what we would call paraprofessionals. Many of them didn't finish school. About half of them don't have matric. Every single one of them has had basic training. And we saw through that child outcomes evaluation how those practitioners, when equipped with the right skills and knowledge and training, were moving the dial for children, and outcomes were improving for children with their support. Another interesting piece of data that has just emerged through the Thrive by 5 index that was published a couple of weeks ago is that there isn't necessarily a clear line between qualifications and better child outcomes. So I think assuming that qualifications always results in better results for children, it's never actually as simple as that. What matters is that it's the right kind of training, and it's quality training, and the practitioners are continually supported even after they've received training, which is what Smart Start, for instance, does through its national network of clubs and coaches.
Yeah, I think there is quite a lot of work to be done. And everybody, of course, can head over to smartstart.org.za. Final thoughts from your side, Rebecca?
Yeah, I think what has been super exciting, Lebu, over the last year in particular, is to watch how this is turning into a kind of a whole of society campaign in South Africa. And in March, the president himself spoke at a national leadership summit on early childhood development, and he said, if there's one thing that the ANC should have done differently 30 years ago, it should have focused on early childhood development. And that was an incredibly powerful message. So it no longer feels like this is one part of civil society or one part of the education system advocating for these important changes. It feels like that it is all of society, including business, government, civil society, communities and parents that are saying this has to be a national priority.
Rebecca Hickman, Chief Ecosystem and Policy Officer at Smart Start. It's 2:30, time for your latest Eyewitness News headlines. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, I'm Komoto Modise. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa says the effects of the economic interventions that he's announced should be seen by 2027. Ramaphosa delivered the closing address at the party's National Executive Committee meeting in Boksburg. He's unveiled the party's economic action plan ahead of the local government elections next year. The Supreme Court of Appeal has upheld President Cyril Ramaphosa's recognition of Mrs. Zulu Zwelithini as King of the Zulu Nation. The president approached the court after the Pretoria High Court ruled that the process of his appointment was unlawful and invalid. King Mrs. Zulu's recognition came months before he was traditionally crowned at the Royal Palace in Gwanongoma, which was challenged by the king's uncle Prince Mbonisi and his older brother Prince Smagate. And Australian police have charged a 60-year-old man after he allegedly opened fire on a busy Sydney street, wounding 16 people in a chaotic attack. Police were called on Sunday evening to Croydon Park in the city's inner west, where the alleged gunman was firing from his property, randomly targeting passing cars and police. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News, more at 3 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you're heading towards the Bedfordview area, leaving Edenvale, slow-moving traffic, R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Giluli's interchange. Also, there's still bumper-to-bumper traffic that's heading towards Midrand in the Calvin area. N3 northbound between Marlborough Drive and the Batu interchange. Otherwise, the rest of 702 land not looking too bad. No serious accidents have been reported on our highways. However, look out for those faulty traffic lights in Edenvale at Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeek. There's also slow-moving traffic approaching the intersection of Beyers-Naudé and the N1. That's in the Rand Park Bridge area, also due to faulty traffic lights. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. In the last 24 hours, this is what's happened in your world.
Embattled Police Minister Senzo Mchunu says he's ready to respond to allegations of political interference in the police service, but he's still in the dark about when he will be called to testify at the Madlanga Commission. Mchunu spoke to media in KwaZulu-Natal this weekend while visiting the home of late Ambassador to France Natim Tetra. He's also expected to address his relationship with controversial Northwest businessman Brian Mokgotsi. ANC Secretary General Philemon Balula, however, has distanced the party from Mokgotsi, saying he's no longer a member of the organization.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.
At the heart of global conversations shaping the future, Africa's voice matters more than ever. As Africa's largest bank by assets and lead sponsor of the B20 summit, Standard Bank Group is proud to spotlight the continent's growth, partnerships, and potential on the world stage. Through informed dialogue and powerful partnerships, Standard Bank is driving sustainable growth where it matters most. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
The motor racing event Cape Town has been waiting for is finally here. Get ready for the Speed Classic Cape Town. Over 140 historic cars, race cars and supercars will compete in a full-throttle showcase of motion, sound and style. Experience the ultimate speed test as the legends of yesterday meet the icons of tomorrow. The Speed Classic Cape Town takes place on Philip Khosana Drive on October 25th and 26th. Get your tickets at Web Tickets today.
Weekdays on the highway, weekends on the trail, in rain, on tar,
or halfway up a gravel pass. With the new Bridgestone Jeweler All-Terrain AT002, you don't have to choose. Bridgestone, prepare to perform whatever the terrain.
Looking for real ways to live greener? Then don't miss Green Tip of the Week, your weekly dose of sustainable inspiration. From eco-entrepreneurs to climate champions, we sit down with the people making real change. Catch Green Tip of the Week every Tuesday on Afternoon Drive with John Perlman from 3 to 6 p.m. Only on 702, proudly brought to you by Volvo. It's safe to be brave with Volvo.
Coming up
on 702 Drive with John Perlman.
702 Drive is coming up from 3 to 6 p.m. with John Perlman. John, happy Monday. How are you doing?
Doing well, thanks. And you, good afternoon to all our listeners.
I am doing well. What's coming up on your show today?
So a couple of things. 3 political parties say they're going to fight the local government elections together. Build One South Africa, Mbusi Maimane, the leader. The Good Party, led by Patricia de Lille, and Rise Mzansi, which is the party headed by Songezo Zibi. We're going to, though, analyze after 5 o'clock. It always sounds like a good idea. Well, if you've all got a small part of the voting pie, then let's all get together. But does 1 + 1 + 1 make, 5 in that particular instance? Do you get more than what you each bring? Or can you actually end up losing votes because people say, well, I liked you. I liked Relebogile and her party. Now that she's mixed in with all these other things, I'm not so sure,
Yeah.
Do you like your beef grilled or do you like a stew? And so we're going to explore that after 5 and just look at also what part of the electorate they're going to be pitching what they have to. Speaking of pitching, part of the strategy of Canal Plus, who have now taken over MultiChoice, is to export South African shows and sell them and make more money out of what's produced here. So I'm intrigued to know what South African shows actually find buyers in other parts of the world. We're going to be exploring that at about 20 minutes past 5. Peace talks in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Don't forget, we were very much immersed in that conflict. Peace talks appear to be stalled. We hope to find out why at about 20 minutes past 4. And then a march today in Tswane, people whose IDs have been blocked for years and years and years in their lives, wrecked as a consequence. We're going to get more insight into that with someone from Legal Aid. They took the matter to court about 2 years ago, and we're going to bring him back to find out what they make of this particular incident now.
All right, 702 Drive with John Perlman, coming up from 3 to 6 p.m.
702.
The Naked Scientist.
Time for The Naked Scientist. Dr. Chris Smith is with us, and he'll be taking all of your science-related questions. Give us a call, 011 883 0702, and the WhatsApp line, 072 702 1702. Happy Monday, Doctor. How are you?
Happy Monday. I'm very good. How are you?
I am doing well. I think I need to know, scientifically, when does year-end fatigue begin? Because I need to know if this is year-end fatigue or it's just normal life. Is it adulting and being
it's a bit
parent?
premature. Oh, it's only October.
I've had
Can't
people
have
tell me
year-end
from
fatigue
August
already.
that they have year-end fatigue. From
When did your
August.
financial year end? In August, probably. So 2 years in, 2 months in. I don't know. I know what you mean, though. I think, though, that when you look at when this tends to happen to people, if we go by calendar year, most people say they feel really, really run down by the end of the year. But that's also going into winter in the northern hemisphere. And if you go into winter, you've got the added thing that the days get really short. And I think probably a lot of people get quite seriously affected by seasonal affective disorder, SADS for short, because not only are you grappling with, I haven't had a holiday for a while, there's this long run in many countries between the end of the summer and Christmas when the next holiday season is, that people have worked for a long time, got quite run down, it's winter, more germs and flus circulating, and it's dark all the time. I mean, if you look at, we're going to change the clocks here in the UK soon, and that means we're going to start seeing it get dark at 4:30 in the afternoon. It will be pitch black by December in the middle of the afternoon, and that takes quite a lot of dealing with. And if you're vulnerable to seasonal affective disorder, which I think a lot of people really are, it does make you feel really, really clapped out. And so I think a lot of this kind of I'm tired is, I think, a range of factors centered on the season. Now, obviously, in the Southern Hemisphere, you've got a slightly different way of thinking about it. But nevertheless, I do think changes in season do make people feel more tired at this time of year because we're changing the clocks, we're changing our body clocks, and that upsets the apple cart.
I'm going to go to all of the listeners' questions, Dr. Chris. I will save the concept of daylight saving for next time because I still don't understand why it was necessary to change clocks. Like, like what was going to happen if you just didn't?
Well, we've had the same sort of conversation many times, and it does create such an upheaval. People are saying, oh, for heaven's sake, why don't we just keep to Greenwich Mean Time or put ourselves an hour forward, British summertime, and stay there? And the problem is that because we live at a very high latitude, then in Scotland, you'd have very, very, very short days. I mean, I went to Norway to give a talk, and the top of Scotland's near where Norway is, and you end up with the daylight starts at about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, and it would get dark by 3. So by shifting the clocks around, you do buy people a bit more light in the morning and you buy them a bit more light in the afternoon. So it does help, but it's not popular.
I still don't get it, but we'll talk about it next time. 011 883 0702, the WhatsApp line 072 702 1702. This question says, naked scientists, can dogs see what we can't see? And is it a fact that dogs can only remember you through your smell?
Well, it's certainly true that dogs devote the majority of their brain to decoding what comes in through their nostrils. You can get a good idea as to how much of a priority or how much of a store an individual or a species sets by a certain sense by looking at how much of its brain processing is devoted to that sense. Now, in a human, our eyes send information about what we're seeing down each optic nerve, about 1 million nerve fibers in each one, and it's processed at the back of your head, in the back part of the brain, and about a third of the human brain is devoted to decoding the sense of vision. It's a huge contribution and a huge neurological cost, but look at the advantage it brings. In a dog, the sense of smell is about the equivalent. Most of a dog's brain is the bottom part of the temporal lobe where smell is decoded. So dogs live in a smell world with a bit of vision added. Humans live in a visual world with a bit of smell sense added. So dogs do set great store by this incredibly powerful sense of smell because they can sense many, many more differences and different odorants than we can. So they interrogate the world via smell and then confirm with their eyes. We don't do that. We look with our eyes and we have a sniff at the same time. The other thing dogs can do, which we definitely can't, which means dogs don't see what we're seeing, is dogs have a tapetum lucidum. Lots of night active creatures do have one of these. You can tell because when you shine a light in a dog's eyes at night, then it will glow back at you like demonic glowing eyes. This is the tapetum lucidum in action. It's a bright sheet at the back of the eye, on the layer at the back of the eye, which is there on the layer on the inside of the eye to reflect light that misses the rods and cones the first time back onto the retina to give you a second chance of seeing it. And what this does is have an amplifying effect at night. So when you're out at night and there's not much light around, if you've got a second chance to see the light that's gone into your eye, it can reinforce what you can see, even in low light conditions. Now, there's obviously a cost to be paid. What you do see is a bit blurrier, but better something a bit blurry than not seeing it at all, which is why these night active creatures, both predators and prey animals, often have this structure, the tapetum lucidum, not present in our eyes, so they can see much better at night. Dogs are nocturnal naturally. They're night active animals. We're not. We go to bed at night, so we don't need it.
Thank you so much for that question that was unsigned. One question here says, Doctor, why would I get super thirsty when my daughter latched on during breastfeeding? Isn't that because your child is draining you?
Yeah, no, it's true. Breast milk, if you think about how much milk does comes out with each feed, you're talking about over a day, quite a few hundred millilitres. Where's that come from? Well, breast tissue is very vascular. So your blood brings in food, proteins, and salts, which cells in the breast tissue, which are glandular tissue, extract those energy sources and nutrients from the bloodstream, as well as liquid, water, from your blood plasma, which is the liquid bit of blood, and it then collects in the collecting duct system in the breast as milk. So if you've got liquid leaving your body, that liquid has to come from somewhere. And that means usually it's come from the food you've eaten, the food you've broken down because metabolism produces water, and the water you've drunk. And the body very carefully matches intake with output. Your brain is continuously tasting the concentration of your blood. The region of the brain at the bottom called the hypothalamus has sensors that look at how concentrated your bloodstream is. And if the blood is becoming too concentrated, the hypothalamus interprets that as, I am running short of water, I need more water, I'm thirsty. It also uses information on how empty your blood vessels are around your body. Now, if you've made a load of breast milk, then you are going to empty your blood vessels out a bit. You'll make your bloodstream a bit more concentrated, and therefore your hypothalamus will say the best way to combat this is to make you feel thirsty. And if you look at people who have a bad hemorrhage, if people have a traumatic accident or something and they lose a lot of blood, one of the things that the victims will often say is, I feel ragingly thirsty, because the body has interpreted a drop in blood pressure, a drop in blood volume, therefore, and also a drop in blood, an increase in blood concentration. It will be interpreted as, I need a drink.
Can I ask, I do recall during my first aid training that if you found a patient or a person who was in trouble who was complaining about being thirsty, that you're supposed to just put some kind of lubrication or something on their lips as opposed to giving them water. What is the reason then if their body says I'm thirsty? Because I can't recall what they said the damage could be if you give them water.
Well, the physiological reaction is, I feel really thirsty because I need to top up my circulation. That's your body responding as it normally would. But obviously it's an extreme circumstance. We're very careful about giving people a drink if they have had some kind of accident, because number one, moving them to give them a drink, you might want to tip their head forward, you might compound a spinal injury. But number two, they might need an anaesthetic. And the less they have in their stomach, the safer an anaesthetic is to give. And you don't want someone going to a theatre with a stomach full of water, which they might then aspirate, and that might cause them to drown in their own stomach contents, which would not be pleasant, obviously, and not what you want. So it's best to, as you say, wet someone's whistle, a little bit of water to make them feel more comfortable while you appraise the situation, try and find out what's going on, and then help them accordingly.
All right, somebody says, so the hypothalamus is responsible for sensing more intake of alcohol. Is that correct, Doctor?
Well, the hypothalamus, it's an interesting bit of the brain. It sits right at the bottom of the brain, the underside of the brain proper. And it's not one single entity. It's a cluster of different nerve centres or nuclei, which are all richly connected together. And they connect both to other bits of the brain, but they also coordinate and control what the rest of the body does. There's a part of the hypothalamus which is receiving signals about temperature. And that part of the hypothalamus is concerned with controlling how we heat ourselves up or cool ourselves down. So it can coordinate sweating, it can turn off sweating, it can turn on shivering, it can turn off shivering, it can increase the metabolic rate by making you produce more thyroxine, which drives your thyroid gland harder, which pushes up the production of heat via metabolic processes. There's another part of the hypothalamus that's tasting the blood, looking at whether or not you need to take a drink because you're getting thirsty. There are other bits of the hypothalamus that keep track of what time of the day it is and wake you up or put you to sleep at the right time of day. So it's a really complicated bit of the brain. I'm not aware that there's specifically a region that says, is there any alcohol in the bloodstream? I haven't heard anyone say that, because alcohol targets the entire nervous system. It dissolves in the nervous system quite well because it dissolves in water, and blood is water, and blood's got an excellent input to the brain. The brain consumes about a fifth of your circulating cardiac output. It's a huge blood flow goes through your brain, and that means you can get alcohol into the brain very, very quickly. But it also likes dissolving in fat, which, because alcohol and oils will mix, so therefore the alcohol goes into your brain quite readily, and it will affect your brain all over. It affects how active the brain is. It targets the part of the brain that turns off nerve activity, which is why alcohol is a CNS depressant. I'm not aware that there's a region of the hypothalamus that specifically detects alcohol.
Thank you so much for that follow-up. Let's go to Thomas in Tembisa. Thomas, hi, go ahead.
Hi, hello, ma'am. Yes, I just want to ask the naked scientist about mathematics, actually. So what I would want to know is, has mathematics been there all along, or has it been somehow invented by somebody? Because always when I listen to the mathematicians like the theorem of Pythagoras, they've just found out that theorem and the like. So I just want to know if it has been invented or found.
Oh, thank you so much, Thomas in Tembisa. So mathematics, has it been there all along, or was it invented?
Hi, Thomas. Well, the way that we choose to craft mathematics, we do it by having rules about how different relationships apply. We've got a numerical system. We had to invent a numerical system, but at the same time, we invented a way of counting things, but things still had number. If you think about how many planets there are in our solar system, well, there are still that number of planets. We've invented a way of counting them. We've then looked at relationships between those numbers. We can say, well, that number is twice as big as that number. Well, that relationship still exists. There would still be twice as many planets, but in our way of counting, that's the relationship we've invented to describe that observation. And that's how maths works. And you basically create connections between different things and rules that constrain those things, which you can prove or disprove must be true or false. And therefore you become certain that the relationships you're demonstrating are the correct ones. And geometry is a really good way to demonstrate that, because you can draw something and then you can build a mathematical formula that describes, when I draw something like this, how big that line will be or that line will be. And you can make predictions, and the predictions are correct because you've got mathematical rules that describe them. And the classic one going back thousands of years is pi, 3.14159, etc., or 22/7. The relationship that gives you the circumference of a circle in relation to the radius of that circle. That rule still exists. Planets are still going to be spherical, and they're still going to have a relationship with that number that we call pi. It still exists out there, that relationship, but our way of describing it uses our mathematical language. And people would think that if there were alien civilizations, there probably are alien civilizations, they are probably therefore going to see those same relationships like we do. And therefore mathematics may well be a universal language, because the same rules and relationships are going to apply. And therefore, although we may not speak the same tongue as an alien race, we almost certainly would be able to talk maths with them.
I hear you completely. Thank you so much for that question. There's one here which says, my 14-year-old daughter is currently my height, wears the same clothes and shoe size like me. How come her hands didn't catch up? They are smaller than mine.
Well, everyone's different. And we inherit 50% of our genes from our mum, 50% from our dads, but we also mix things up more than that. So we're not just half mum, half dad. We are a mixture of grandparents in there and other combinations of genes. And then we change the way that the genes we've inherited are turned on, to what extent they're turned on and where they're turned on. So there's a huge amount of diversity that goes into the making of every new, unique human on Earth. Unless you're a twin, there is no one else on Earth who has the same genetic makeup as you. And those genes are used to influence how we develop. They guide the process of embryonic development, but they don't prescribe it. So in other words, it's a bit like when you go to the casino, rather than saying, I'm betting on this number on the roulette wheel, and if a gene is the right one, it makes that number come up. It's not like that. Genetics makes it more likely that that number will come up, but it doesn't absolutely prescribe it. So the way that embryonic development happens, there are rules being laid down by your genetic code that pattern your body and guide cells to connect or form and develop in a certain way. But it doesn't tell them where to go. It biases their decision making. So they're likely to follow a certain path, but not exclusively. And this means that there is great diversity and difference in the way that we all look, and certainly the way that we all think, because our brains are molded further by our experience. So we put our brain together and it gives us a sort of blank sheet of paper that you can then draw a picture of life's experience on. When it comes to the development of other bits of the body, it's very similar, that you are using a genetic program to guide where cells go, but there will always be differences because there's some chance involved, and there's also a lot of genetic diversity because you're not just half mum, half dad.
Thank you so much for that question that came through unsigned. Doctor, I so wanted to share something with you, and I'm not sure if you heard about it, but there's a woman, a Brazilian woman, who made a shocking discovery 3 years ago, which is that her blood only in her entire body was made up of XY chromosomes. And when they discovered, it turned out that this was not because of a blood transfusion or anything like that. It happened from possibly this placentas being shared with her twin. So I discovered the story and I thought it was so fascinating and wanted to know your thoughts, especially because we live in a time where people want to politicize science, particularly when it comes to things like gender and you think about the intersex community.
Okay, I'm not familiar with this particular story, but I can talk generally about this sort of thing. And what may be going on here is that when we make blood, you have in your bone marrow, which is the hollow bit that's spongy in the middle of your long bones, leg bones, arm bones, pelvis, spine, you have stem cells. Those stem cells produce all the elements of blood. This includes the red blood cells, the white blood cells that are our immune system, the megakaryocytes that give us our platelets, and so on. Now, they will be running a genetic program in those cells, which you should inherit from the stem cells that produced you when you were first a fertilized egg and it split into a couple of cells. But it's not impossible for someone to have a different blood group / different blood genome to the rest of their body. And we can do this artificially because if we have somebody who needs a bone marrow transplant, we can give them stem cells from another person which have a close genetic resemblance. They match a number of key markers in that person's body that will make them more compatible with our body, our tissue, and our own immune system. We do this a lot, and it's called an allogeneic stem cell transplant. And it's not unusual for a person who has this, who has some kind of blood cancer. You remove the person's own bone marrow that's unhealthy, and you give them the stem cell transplant to give them a working bone marrow from someone who's a good match. If that person who is the donor has a different blood group or even a different gender to that person, then they're going to see their blood group change. So it's not entirely impossible that this individual could have, via some freak, I'm not sure how it's happened, it's not impossible that you could fuse early embryos together that have different genetic makeup, and some of the stem cells from one then populate the developing bone marrow and give it a different characteristic. Why this stands out, and why you're saying this stands out, is that the bone marrow is XY and the person is a female, presumably XX, and that is harder to explain unless you've got one of the two phenomena that I've just explained going on. Or the other possibility is that that lady, in inverted commas, looks like a female, but actually is genetically male and has some condition like androgen insensitivity, which is where you have a genetic change that means the receptor that normally sees the androgen signal that turns a person into a man is not working, or during embryonic development, the signals that normally tell the body develop into a male don't work. So they develop into a female and look like a female, but they are actually genetically male. So all of those possibilities could account for this. If you could send me the story, I'll take a look and then I'll report back next week.
Already done. Thank you so much, Dr. Chris Smith. Back together next week.
702. Serving the 702 family in 702 land, including those of you in the vibrant neighborhood of Rosebank. Rosebank has undergone a major facelift in recent years. There's been an extensive redevelopment of shopping malls and the construction of new corporate headquarters, apartment blocks, restaurants and hotels. Its residents and visitors are served by the Gautrain. Rosebank is also known for its thriving art scene, with numerous galleries and the Keys Art Mile showcasing local and international talent. 702. Let's walk the talk across 702 land, including Rosebank.
Phishing, quishing, smishing, so many ishings. Hi, Bo. Scammers are doing the most these days. From dodgy SMSs to fake QR codes, hacked WhatsApps and calls asking for your PIN. If it ends in ishing, stay alert. It's probably ishing your money. Scams can happen anywhere. And if unsure, contact ABSA on 0860 557 557. Protect your money. Protect your story. ABSA. Your story matters. An authorized financial services provider.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We are also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comments, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we are not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. Email bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
Thanks for joining us. Back tomorrow. It's 3 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Justice Minister calls for urgent meeting over Mthethwa's death, and Australian pensioner charged for chaotic shooting. Good afternoon, I'm Khomotso Modise. We begin with news just in. Justice Minister Mamoloko Kubai has called for an urgent meeting with senior members